I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too. Hey, everybody. I'm here with the sadistic salad of the South, welcoming you back to I Played a Thing, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, New Game Plus, Abridged. Yes, between work and other responsibilities, I have been a little crunched for time lately, and the Space Harrier and Friends videos are fairly labor-intensive, and that's been affecting my upload schedule. So, I'd like to get things back a little more on track, and so since I can do Dark Souls 2 videos quite a bit quicker, we're gonna go back to that for a while, and we'll get back to Space Harrier and Friends later. So right now I am rocking the Black Witch set because we're gonna go caster this time. I have respect, and you will find that my attunement and intelligence and faith have all been greatly buffed at the expense of various other stats. I still have enough strength to wield a decent shield and get a little bit out of my weapon, but I won't be able to rock the big great shields now, so I'll have to be careful about that. But with this much attunement and this much strength, intelligence and faith, I'll be able to do pretty much any kind of casting. Also, I have a Dark S-Stock plus 10, because someone had mentioned wanting to see some thrusting swords, and that seems like a decent idea. And I ended up going with the S-Stock because it is a pointy poker, but it is not a pure pointy poker. With the R2, we do have one part of our R2 combo that does do a swing, so we can do a little slashing when we need to. Also, one notable thing about the Black Hat is that we get one additional attunement slot for it. As my main casting tool, I'll be using a Black Witch's Staff plus 10. The idea with the Black Witch's Staff is that it can cast sorceries, miracles, and hexes. It's not the best at any of them, but it's good enough at all of them. And I'll be adding the Baneful Bird Ring to my usual ring loadout to go along with my Defender's Shield plus 5. That is the most stable of the medium-sized shields. And just in case I need better stability sometime, I can go with the Twin Dragon Great Shield, which does have much improved stability, but as the lightest of the Great Shields, it doesn't have 100% physical block. And I think that's just about it for all of our loadout. As I mentioned before, we get an extra attunement slot out of the Black Witch's hat, and I'm going to be wanting to carry a pretty heavy and broadly ranging loadout of spells as much as I can, so that'll help. Right now we've got Dark Orb, which is the most basic of hex projectiles. Just a little bit of dark damage. Resonant Soul, which is an upgrade from Dark Orb, but costs 100 souls each cast. Got some Lightning Spears, some Soul Arrows and Soul Greatswords. Warmth is always useful. Flame Swathe is usually pretty handy. And Fire Tempest, because why not? And because in this game Pyromancy does scale off both intelligence and faith, our Hex loadout should be pretty effective for that too. And we've got enough leftover souls to drop one more level, so we're gonna take 1 point in Vigor before we move on. Alright. One more quick look at the stats. Everything seems to be in order. Just checking my items. We're gonna keep some herbs in the quick access there because they restore spell uses, which we'll probably need to do sometimes. And now at the Farfire, we can begin Journey 2 to Draglake. And we see a New Game Plus change right away in Things Betwixt. There are falconers here. And in the original game, the non-scholar version, this was the only place in the game you could ever encounter falconers. Which could be a little bit of a trouble if you wanted to farm out some sunlight medals, because these are the only enemies that can actually drop sunlight medals, and when you ran out of spawns of them, that would be a real problem for you. You'd have to use a bonfire ascetic and increase the New Game Plus level of the area. And shit, this is not a good beginning. something I'm noticing is that I'm in the habit of keeping my shield up and then just attacking with the shield up to make myself drop it. The problem is, with thrusting swords, much like spears, you can actually stab from behind your shield. But these thrusts are rather slow and take off a lot of stamina. So I won't want to use them as often as I'm doing by accident. That's something I'm going to have to train myself out of the habit of. Gotta remember to actually drop my shield before I attack. Oh, this is just getting embarrassing. Anyway, being able to poke from my shield will probably end up being useful to me sometimes. I just want to actually do it when I can do it. Alright, third time's a charm, hopefully. By the way, the unusual thing about these falconers is that, for once, they actually have falcons, goddammit. And you have to be careful of them here, because those falcons do pretty good damage, especially by New Game Plus damage boosts, and they are not blockable. They'll go right through your shield, as birds always do. Anyway, I have to remember here I am a caster, and it's time to start playing like one. And two of our humble Dark Orbs will take down a falconer, so that is going to be, I think, the way to go here. I do like the sound firing off those hexes causes. It has an almost weird mechanical sound, like an engine revving or something. Just being able to chuck little balls of darkness at people and having them go vroom is kind of enjoyable. There's a certain satisfaction to it. Hello, where'd that come from? You. My projectiles are better than yours. Alright, so that's one nasty little New Game Plus surprise down, and we'll have another one very shortly. As we approach the cliffs here, a couple of those weird monstrous humanoid things with the disturbingly testicle-like growth between their legs will appear there in red phantom form. New Game Plus adds a lot of red phantom enemies, and they have standard behavior, but they do have more HP and do more damage. Now they'll be a little more dangerous, but you can generally handle them in the same way. And now we're gonna go fight the hippo, because of course we gotta try fighting the hippo. Alright, let's see how a Dark Orb does. No, actually we're gonna try out a Great Heavy Soul Arrow. Decent damage. Not brilliant. How about a Soul Greatsword? Quite good damage. Oh, but mind the timing. And he just straight up ate us. I guess we're hippo shit now. And that's pretty bad, because if you've ever seen a hippo take a dump, they get it everywhere. Alright. We'll give that another try. This time, let's see how Flameswathe does. Holy shitcakes, hippos are apparently very flammable. I like that. Nope, we're not having that again. Much better. Yeah, getting used to this whole spellcasting and thrusting swords thing is definitely going to be a process. It's gonna take some work on my part, and in the early going, it's going to be very ugly indeed. However, I do find myself getting a little better at it over the course of even this first video, so we'll get there. Naturally, if it becomes prohibitive, I do reserve the right to make changes in my loadout, but hopefully we'll be able to stick with the caster and thrusting thing. Now here's another New Game Plus edition. When you first come to this tutorial section of Things Betwixt, there will be this crossbowman up on the bridge there, and with New Game Plus damage, holy shit, those bolts hurt a lot. Also, I don't know if he's consciously doing it, but whether through cleverness of AI or just random behavior there, he seems to be doing pretty well at hiding behind the sconce there. Now, Soul Spear, we don't get many casts of that, and it's quite slow to come out, but it should hurt quite a lot. Probably the most powerful of our current projectile loadout. And yep, pretty damn potent. One more Soul Orb ought to do it. Or Dark Orb, rather. There we go. Another thing that's going to be a learning process, I've got to get used to the need to cycle through my spells and pick the right one quickly. Majula, it's been a while. And I actually have only 11 on my on my Max Estus, and the absolute maximum you can have is 12, so we'll get that Estus shard again, and we'll go ahead and get our flask reinforced. And just hustle through the Emerald Herald spiel here.
You will never seek those. There's once so that.
Yes, yes, the well endowed, we know.
To see, however.
And there we go. A lovely dozen chugs of the good old Sunny D. Now, I've got a little business to do with Malin now, I believe. I've gone ahead and spent a bunch of souls on his shop to get his shop to the maximum level, where he stocks as much as he possibly can. And now, in New Game Plus, he has some pieces of butterfly equipment. Pinions made from wings of the rare moon butterfly. Poisons those who approach its wearer. Also extends jump distance. Little is known about the moon butterfly, which only appears on full moon nights in winter. Some say the butterfly is a magical being, and its larvae have never once been spotted. Now, this poison aura can be useful against enemies, especially against bosses who are susceptible to poison. However, you do have to be very careful that you don't wear the moon butterfly set around NPCs, because you will poison your friends. And that's a very good way to get all of Majula pissed off at you, as well as anyone else out in the wild. For right now, we'll just buy the skirt, and we'll come back for the rest when we have the money. Also, there are 2 more pieces of the Moon Butterfly set, the shield and the hat, that only appear in New Game Plus 2, but we can get those with a bonfire aesthetic. So next episode, I'll drop a bonfire aesthetic at the far fire, and we'll get the last 2 pieces of the Moon Butterfly set. For now, we're going to proceed toward the Forest of the Fallen Giants, but first let's take care of the Mimic that has appeared here. Wow, that Staff Bash did a lot more damage than I would have expected. And Dark doesn't seem to be real effective on Mimics, so we're gonna switch over to Magic and we'll find that much more effective. Not much of a reward, but getting more combat experience in with our magic, definitely no bad thing. And as I was doing a little commerce with Malentia here, I got invaded by IPAT Urgot. Interesting name. Ah, where the hell did you come from? There I am poking from behind my shield again. I really have to break myself of that habit. Hi, Urgot. Well, no, you're not Urgot. You're the guy who fed Urgot. You know, in close quarters like this against a human opponent, I don't think magic's gonna really work out for me, so I'm gonna stick with my Dark Infused Estic. Estoc, sorry, I shouldn't say Estic. That sounds very lazy. And it's gonna be Dark Weapon against Dark Weapon, because I see he's got a Dark Weapon buff on. I do have to say the damage is not as good as what I'm accustomed to, but I do like the speed of the Estoc. It's good for getting little pokes in, and can be very handy for interrupting enemy attacks as long as they don't have much poise, and it's good enough to actually stun them. I came pretty close to a win there, but then I don't know what I was thinking. I switched to my spell tools, and it may in fact have been accidental. I don't remember for sure. And then I got stuck against a column, and that was that. Then, as I was fiddling around more in the area and picking up the Divine Blessing hidden on the branch there, I fed Urgot showed up again. Also, I'm really surprised to see the Sunbro symbol there. At this level in the game, you don't tend to see a lot of co-op options. Alright, Urgot. Or the guy who fed Urgot. There you are. This time we just emoted at each other for a while. And then his planet needed him. Sometimes the most silly player interactions can be the most enjoyable. Now then, time to try the optional Pursuer battle here on top of the platform. Now, according to my notes, the Pursuer is most vulnerable to lightning damage, but fire should also work pretty well. So we're gonna try hitting him with some Flame Swathes. Those seem to be doing pretty good damage for us, and he's not a super fast boss. Flame Swathe is very avoidable, so you can't use it against something that moves around a huge amount, so well, we'll see how that works out. I should note that the S-Stock has worse range than I'm used to, and I've also been playing some Dark Souls 3 lately, which has very different timings to Dark Souls 2, especially the Estus, which is much slower in this game, so that will probably account for some of my awkwardness. It's been a good while since I played 2, whereas 3 is very fresh in my mind, and so playing this as if it has Dark Souls 3 timings by instinct, that's not going to work out very well for me. And of course some of it is just good old clumsiness. Come on, give me an opportunity. There we go. Good 700 plus damage, that's not bad. Well, he does have those dodges, so this may not work out entirely well, but we'll see if we can go through all 4 of them and land at least 3 maybe. If we don't get murdered first. Ah! Really gotta retrain myself for that slow Estus. Shit. Oh, nope, still landed, okay. Alright, we are now out of Flame Switch, so what will we use next? We'll use Death. Death should be effective. Alright, we've got another New Game Plus opponent here when we descend to the lowest level. Well, not really the lowest level of anything. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it's another Red Phantom NPC. This one doing a little of the dual-wielding action. We'll start out with a little pointy poking. Get screwed by the slow Estus again. I have really got to retrain myself for that. Alright, Dark Orb is reasonably effective, especially considering it is the lowest tier of all dark projectiles. Resonant Soul, very effective. How about the Soul Greatsword? Not bad at all. I believe I mentioned when we picked it up in the first run, but one of the nifty things about Soul Greatsword is that it goes through everything. You can hit through walls, you can hit multiple enemies. So that's something I'll probably be making some good use of in the future. There are some times during this video where I really should have been using it, but I didn't. But, again, I'm still getting used to the process. So now we're going to spring the trap with the ballista in here. Unfortunately, something I forgot is that in New Game Plus, there are an absolute assload of dudes that are going to come out of this. You have all of the usual ones, plus an additional 2 Red Phantom soldiers. Now, being as they are behaviorally the same as regular soldiers, that wouldn't normally be such a big deal, but when you have this many dudes, having a couple of extra who have more HP and who can hit you harder, well, it's not going to be the most gorgeous situation at all. Now, that would have been a perfect opportunity to use Soul Greatsword, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. I had it into my head that I should use Soul Spear, which does penetrate, and have it go through a bunch of them at the same time. Didn't work out for me, in large part because Soul Greatsword is very slow. Or Soul Spear, I'm sorry, is a very slow spell to cast. Takes quite a while to come out of the staff, as you can see. We got a little luckier that time in that one of these soldiers was immediately killed by the ballista while he was running out. And this is not going exactly gracefully, but we're staying alive so far, and we've got a couple more dudes down. I really should be using Greatsword instead of Spear here. Not only does it come out faster, the wide swing of it would probably be catching all of the opponents directly in front of me at any given time. That Dark Orb is reasonably fast, and it has lots of casts, so it's quite dependable, I'm sorry. The number of casts is why I'm keeping it out as part of my standard loadout, even though it is a low-level spell. The scaling of it with our intelligence and faith will make it still pretty practical. Now then, where all the explosive barrels are in the courtyard here, we've got our Red Phantom Ironclad. A fairly dangerous bruiser in terms of damage and blowing up the courtyard, but just like any Red Phantom, he acts just like any other Ironclad, so we can handle them in the usual way. And I actually find these guys a little easier to deal with the S-Stock when I'm going melee on them. Because having a faster weapon is actually safer than having a hard-hitting weapon against these guys. It's easier to get your hits in. So that's something nice. And as we take care of another Ironclad by the lift here, it's just about time for us to take on our first boss, the good old Last Giant. And according to my notes, this guy is very weak against Dark, so our Dark Orb and Resonant Soul should work out quite nicely. There is a great Resonant Soul, by the way, but I do not have it currently attuned because there are not very many casts of it. I think you only get 6 shots of that. It also costs more to fire them off. That's the thing about a lot of hexes, is that a lot of the stronger ones cost spells, or cost souls rather, to actually use. Now, in New Game Plus, because I am running caster style this time, I am removing my limitation of the number of allies I can summon. Since I'm going to need people to run interference for me while I'm pew-pewing away, I'm going to bring in as many phantoms as I can to any given boss fight. And besides, I couldn't possibly leave Loot, the tankiest of all tanks. Gotta have him along. Alright, let's try out some Resonant Souls. 260. Not bad, but given this guy's weakness to Dark, I would have expected a bit more. Still, it certainly is dropping his life bar fairly quickly. And the boys are running some pretty good interference for me. Thus far, I've been able to stand back and blink away at my leisure. Oop, not no more. And mind that roll timing. Alright, he's a slow target. Let's see how Flame Swathe works out. I'm not sure how that missed, but let's try again. Pretty decent. doing almost as much with our Dark, though, so I guess that's the weakness in effect. How about Soul Spear? Yeah, not that impressive. I can see where the Dark weakness is coming into play. Even with our low-level Dark, we were doing almost as much as Flame Swathe and Soul Spear, so... yeah, that stands to reason. We will spend some of our ill-gotten gains on Dear Melentia here, and clear out the expensive parts of her stock. Like the Fragrant Branch and the Bright Bugs. Always good to get as many Bright Bugs as we can while they're relatively cheap. Shore up our herb supply. Praise Jah. And we'll buy out the effigies, because why not? I mean, we've got a lot of them, but I'm bound to be dying a lot, so we'll go through a lot of them, I'm sure. Now that we've got the Soldier's Key, we can go over near the King's Gate here on the far side of the Forest of Fallen Giants. Can't actually get through the King's Gate here, of course, because in this run we don't have the King's Ring yet. But we've got a couple of new Red Phantoms here that I just wanted to have it out with. Got one big guy with a great sword and a Mastodon shield, I believe that is, and another dual wielder. And here once again is where I really could have been making some good use out of Soul Greatsword. Really should have been using that, but once again it didn't occur to me. I'm sure as I get more practice in with my spell options that my instincts for it will get better. Gotta mind the Royal Soldier there. He has very little aggro radius and will quickly lose interest in you, but getting too close to him is not going to help me out here at all. Yeah, watching this while doing the post-commentary, I am just kicking myself for all the times I could have hit both of these guys with a quick Soul Greatsword and just didn't think to do it. Smashed the chest there with a roll, so I will not be getting another Grand Lance, but that's okay. I've got one Grand Lance, and I'm not really going to have the stats for that this game anyway. With our orbs and our resonance, we are slowly plinking away at these guys. Slow process and very touchy. Being pressured is a very bad thing when you're trying to get casts off. That's one of the greater difficulties of playing a magic-intensive character, it seems. Always got to get enough distance between you and whatever you're fighting in order to have your casting time. I'll be doing my usual fashion souls, but I'm thinking when I have the opportunity, the Lion Mage set is going to be very handy for me this run, because the various pieces of the Lion Mage set will all improve your casting time, and I'm really not seeing any downside to be able to being able to get my spells off faster. Pick up our rubbish from the broken chest, and on we go. Now we're going to have our Pursuer fight next, so I'm just considering what my loadout should be, given that Flame Swathe was not fast enough to hit him reliably. So I ended up putting on Sunlight Blade, as well as a Dark Sword buff, although that I don't end up using. Doing a little more fiddling around here. And there we go, finally made up my mind on Sunlight Blade, because we really don't get many casts of Great Lightning Spear, and I don't think the damage on it is going to be that hot even with the lightning weakness, so I'm thinking going melee with a hardy weapon buff will be the way to go here. So one nice thing about being a caster, you don't only have spells, you have lots of buffs at your disposal. The Red Phantom Soldier there quite startled me, but He's still a soldier, and he's alone, so no big deal. At this point, I'm deciding what spell tool to put in my left hand in order to cast that sunlight blade on my weapon. I do a little debating over it, but ultimately I end up going with the Chime of Want, I believe. Not necessarily the best choice, but it's what I ended up deciding on. The best option would be the Dragon Chime, but I'm not smart enough to use it. The idea being it has the S scaling in lightning. I actually might have done best with the Priest Chime I have there, which does not have... Well, actually, it does have an A scaling, and it's also upgraded to +8, so I'm not sure. That might have worked out better than the Chime of Want, but... whatever. Again, this is still very much a feeling out process for me. And you'll get to see me evolve. Hopefully. Alright, I think that should do. I briefly considered trading out one of my rings here for a lingering Dragon Crest ring to make that sunlight blade last a little longer, but I didn't really want to take off any of the rings I currently had. I mean, I could have lost the covetous Silver Serpent ring without any loss of combat effectiveness, but I need those souls. It's gotten quite expensive to level up. Yeah, our lightning buffed Dark S-Stock is doing some pretty decent damage here. We're probably not getting much out of the dark damage because I believe the Pursuer is quite strong against dark, but yeah, the lightning part's helping us out. Man, I was really flirting with death with how much I backed off on that Curse Sword stab there. And I've really got to get used to the timings in this game again. All of my reactions are currently programmed into Dark Souls 3 terms. I'm quite enjoying Dark Souls 3, by the way. Since I've been so crunched on time lately, I haven't had much time to actually spend with it, but so far pretty good. I'm not very far into the game yet, but I'm liking what I see. I note in earlier patches and earlier revisions of the game, you got a lot more of the lightning spears. They were badly nerfed with respect to the number of casts you get over the course of the patching history, and I don't know why. I mean, it really didn't seem excessive, the number of lightning spears you got in previous versions of the game, and now it doesn't seem like you get enough. Oh well. Point being, it looks like we're actually winning this time. Oh, out of spears. So we'll do another kind of spear. I imagine this should do a pretty hearty amount of damage, and he has very little left, so one of these and we should be all set. Oh, nope, we're gonna go resonant. I think. Don't remember exactly what I did here. No, that damage wasn't bad. I guess his resistance to dark isn't all that high. Alright, back to Manjula to spend more of our booty. And we'll pick up the rest of that butterfly set that we can get right now. I did not bonfire ascetic and get the additional pieces this video, but we will do that next episode.
Thanks for the purchase.
Now then, I'm a little shy of what I need to get another level at this point.
On you. Take thee.
And I will be a little more so after I finish my business with Melentia here.
Thanks.
But I do have some consumable souls, so we'll go ahead and pop those and see if that puts us up over the threshold. Need 37 odd. We're getting there. Alright, we're gonna come up a little short on our regular consumables, but we can eat the soul of the last giant because we already got the only thing we can trade it for, the giant stone axe. And that'll do it. Perfect.
Bearer of the less.
We're eventually gonna want to keep improving our attunement and intelligence and faith, but for now, I really just want some more HP. So vigor it is. And in one of the off-screen segments, I picked up a Smooth and Silky, so we'll go ahead and trade that in before we call it a day. Meanwhile, I would like to mention that on Steam, I got a friend invite from one Black Jesus. I typically don't accept random requests, and so I'm wondering if that's one of you folks out there. So, Black Jesus, if you're out there, please shoot me a message or something so that I know who you are and I can accept your friend request. Meanwhile, back in this game, we got another Channeler's Trident. And that kind of intrigues me. It's not a thrusting sword, but it is a thrusting weapon, and I'm thinking that could be fun to play with. I don't know, is that something you'd like to see me use? I could have the drill attack, and I can express my anger through dance. Could be an interesting weapon to use. And I could always infuse that with dark, just like I did with the S-Stock, so it's an option. Anywho, that is about all the time we have for today, so thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time. This is and Salad, signing off. I Played a Thing has been brought to you today by such wonderful patrons as Justin Carpenter, Nolden, Zangamarth, Charlie Dunst, Anonymous Benefactor, John Madigan, Johnny Millennium, Sanguine Games, Misha Van Doren, Greg Patterson, Frank Grizzy, Tim J., Lolo DePuzlo, Joshua C. Ritchie, Jared C. Rice, Darren Chow, Sonic Rose, EX Potemkin, Alicia Goranson, Argyle Jelly, Mechasaurus, DG Jono, Doug Russell, August Fortnite, and Patrick Bellinger, along with the rest of the very generous gang. And, of course, I cannot forget to mention all you lovely commenters, watchers, and subscribers. All of your contributions and support in all of their many forms are always very much appreciated. Take care, everybody, and have a good week.